Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, we're going to be talking about the TRD spins. It's a little piece of terminal tackle that really customizes a lot of your different ElaZtech baits or traditional soft plastics to make them something completely different. So this right here is the TRD spins. I'm going to take one out of the package. Here we are. Essentially all it is it's got a little blade on it, either silver or gold like this one, and it is connected to your ElaZtech or traditional soft plastic with this spike here, okay? So you're essentially adding a blade to whatever soft plastic or ElaZtech offering that you're fishing. So it is a great way to customize your baits and do something completely different and give those fish something different that could elicit a strike from pressured fish. So like I said, it comes in two different colors. You've got gold or silver or nickel. And then you've got two different blade styles. You've got the Colorado blade or you've got the willow leaf blade. Okay, and both of these are going to do something different, and we're going to discuss that pretty soon. I'm going to show you the technique that I really like to use it with, and that is a NED rig. So you can use it with all different types of soft plastics in the ElaZtech, but I really like it with the NED rig. It just seems to fit this profile of bait with the TRD very well. I've also used it with like swim jigs, and I've cut off the tails of boot style swim baits like the minnows or the diesel minnows, and I've replaced them with that blade. And all of those things work really well. But this is right here my favorite profile that I use the TRD spins for. And essentially what this is doing is it's adding, I would say the vibration is minimal unless you're using the Colorado blade, which I think adds a little bit more. But more so than anything, it's giving flash, okay? It's putting out that flash. And flash is something that bass really... they get fired up about when they're keying in on bait fish like shad. And so adding a blade to your bait can really be the difference between getting a bite and not getting a bite. And so the situations that I like to throw a bait that has the TRD spins in it is twofold, okay? So there's either bottom bouncing, where I'm lifting the bait off the bottom, doing kind of a yo-yo technique. And I'm talking like big pumps of the rod tip, not like just little hops like you would fish a NED rig normally, because essentially you want to get the most action out of that blade as you're fishing it. So I'll do like a yo-yo retrieve a lot of times, and then I also like a swimming retrieve. And I think the swimming retrieve is really where this bait shines. And when I say swimming, it could mean tight lining it, so casting it out and just allowing this bait to pendulum on a tighter line. So you keep tension on that line and let it pendulum back to you. And that blade is just gonna be spinning like crazy as it goes down. And it's emitting a lot of flash. So swimming it, and you can also just cast it out and reel it back in. Okay, so both of those things kind of, fall into that swimming category. But those are the two different techniques that I use, a pumping retrieve on the bottom and a swimming retrieve. Both of them are really, supposed to imitate a shad. The yo-yo technique is more of a dying shad, and the swimming techniques are more of a just everyday shad swimming around type deal. All right, so the question is, when do you want to use a willow leaf blade, TRD spins, versus the Colorado blade? And so essentially, when I'm swimming this presentation, when I'm casting it out, either tight lining it, letting it pendulum back to the boat, or just slowly reeling it, which it is, it works best if you're just slowly reeling it, counting it down to the right depth, or watching on forward facing sonar and then swimming it back. When I'm doing that, I like to use the willow leaf blade. Okay, the willow leaf blade works really, really well for that. It doesn't cause a lot of resistance, so it's not a lot of drag. And this blade is going to be spinning like crazy behind it. So it spins really good as you're swimming it. However, I don't like the willow leaf blade for, a yo-yo technique. It doesn't seem to work near as good as a Colorado blade. So the Colorado blade, which I've got in the pack here, this is the one that I like to use when I'm yo-yoing. So if I'm casting it out, letting it hit the bottom, you know, and it has to be a clean bottom, because as soon as you get a little bit of algae on that ball bearing, it just, you know, you're gonna have to bring it back in and unfoul it. Essentially, it'll foul up pretty easy. So clean bottom, letting it go down to the bottom, lifting it up and letting it fall down. And the reason why the Colorado blade is better for that type of presentation is because it creates that resistance. It has more drag, it catches more water, and it allows this bait to really have a seductive fall down to the bottom, as long as you have the right type of weight. If the weight's you know, too light, it's just not going to work quite right. But you know, you just experiment with the weights. But the Colorado blade definitely works better on the fall in general than the willow leaf blade. But you know, I will say that the Colorado blade works pretty good, you know, slow rolling as well, you know, just swimming it. But I do tend to prefer the willow leaf blade. But you can slow roll if it's really cold and you really want a slow presentation, but you want that horizontal presentation, then go to the Colorado blade, because it's going to allow you to slow that swimming action down. All right, so we've talked about the combinations that I use with the different retrieves. Let's talk about the color selection. So you get either you know, nickel or gold. And essentially where I like to use nickel or the silver blade is in the clearest water, where there's just not a lot of like tint to that water. So it's not stained at all. It's just nice and clear. Maybe it's a clear sunny day, that sort of thing. But anytime I start getting a little bit of stain to the water, like you get, you know, early season on most lakes, when you get a lot of rain coming into the lakes, even if it's still clear, but it has a little bit of tint to it, that's when I like to throw the gold blade. The gold blade works very, very well in those type of situations. And that goes for pretty much any type of nickel or gold finish that I use, whether it's a lipless crankbait, a spinnerbait, whatever it is, a chatterbait. I like gold in dirtier water. That's just, it seems to show up well, and I tend to get a lot of bites with it. So that's what I choose for different situations as far as the blade finish. Now, again, you know, I use the TRD and the NED rig most often with this technique. Again, I've used swim baits with the tails cut off and replaced it with the blade. And the reason I did that is I wanted a little bit more subtle technique as far as the movement, but I wanted a little bit of flash with it. And that's a great way to do that. You know, because a paddle tail on a swim bait is going to cause a lot of action. It's going to make that whole bait shimmy. But you put a blade on the back of it, you're going to, whether it's the Colorado blade or the willow leaf blade, it's not going to have that side-to-side action as much. Now, the Colorado blade will add a little bit of action to it, but the willow leaf, you know, you're hardly going to notice any action added to the bait, but you're going to notice the flash. And the flash is a really, really big deal when it comes to, you know, adding a blade to your bait. All right, so before we close this out, I'm going to show you the tackle that I use with this NED rig customized with the TRD spins. This right here is a spinning combo that I like to use. Right now it's got the little minnows on it. But this one right here, it's 6'9" medium action Versa Series spinning rod. I have an S4000 spinning reel on here. And then I spool it with 15-pound Seagar Smackdown. Okay, that's braided line as the main line. And then I do like a 20-foot leader of gold label fluorocarbon. Okay, and I like to use usually 6-pound test. I don't generally go above 6-pound test for this technique, because we're really not fishing around that much cover. It's more of an open water technique, trying to imitate those small bait fish in the area. So spinning gear definitely seems to work best. But if you're one of those guys that likes to use those bait casting reels made for small baits, that would work really good too. But anyways, guys, this is just some food for thought. This is a really cool way to add just a little bit of flair to your soft plastic and ElaZtech baits. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you got any questions or you want me to cover a topic in the next video, drop a comment below with that question or topic. And I'm going to see you guys out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.